Okay, well, we are going to have to machine the shaft a little bit just to get that to slide in there the way we want it to. After using a micrometer, I was able to figure out that it had actually shrunk about 2 thou past 3 inches, so it's 2 thou under 3 inches. So yeah, there's no way that it's going to fit, and there's no way that just a flap disc is going to. I think it was the heat on the bottom that kind of oblonged the DOM. So we knew there was a chance of that. It just kind of comes with the territory. If I had a line boring set up, I would throw that on there and ream it out, but I don't. So I will just end up having to machine the shaft, and we'll throw that in there and we'll be okay. So I am going to move on with this because I'd like to try to get these welded up tonight so that they can cool by tomorrow. That way I know what I need to do tomorrow and possibly get it assembled and get the wheels and tires, the hubs and everything on it so that we can actually set it down, move it around, and move on to the next thing, which will be the chute in the middle. So let's see if we can't get this figured out here. I am going to flip this over and I'm going to get some tacks on this now. I'm just going to do the same thing. It looks like there's 2 directions here that it can't really move because it's butt up against the material. So I'm going to hit 2 tacks here and then bounce, tack here, tack here, tack here, and tack here. Okay, so we got that tacked up. I think I want to try fitting up these axles now. I think I'm going to set it back on that machine surface. So now it's sitting, it's supported, it's solid. We know these axles will slide down in these holes because I've checked already, and it is about a perfect fit. There is like no movement there. So again, if I check these with a square, they are money. And I can't move it really either direction. I am going to get tacks this way first. I'm almost tempted to throw this in the lathe and just chamfer the back of it and then butt it up flush and weld it flush. You're taking away from your clearance if you go too far. Alright, it's final. Sooner or later you got to make a decision. I'm going to chamfer this, throw this in the lathe, chamfer it, and then we can come back and it'll give us a nice pretty flush weld there on the back. Okay, we got these chamfered. I've got one sticking in the hole here. There's a good enough gap there, plus it's going to be welded 100% on the inside here, or the outside, however you look at it. But I think I'm going to just run one here, weld this one here. I'm checking this with a level, and then square wise, God, I'm pretty happy with that. Okay, I'm going to tack this. At some point, you just got to commit. Put this one in. Do the same thing. We might have to support this now that we're getting a bunch of weight out this end. Okay, I think we're good. Okay, everything's all tacked. Now I want to double check. Axles go on the outside. Our 1 5/8, that goes to the inside, so we should be good. And then our hubs go on here. We should have clearance for the wheels. I'm really tempted to check that, to maybe put the hub on and set a wheel on it. Just make sure I have clearance before I weld it. Okay, I checked it. I put a hub on the tire, pulled a measurement. We should have plenty of clearance, so we're good there. I think we're ready to weld this out. All right, well, fire in the hole. All right, guys, quick update. I did get both of our pivot pieces welded out yesterday. It got to the point where it was taking so much time and it was such a tedious process for me to get these squared up, tacked, welded out. I ended up just having to turn the camera off because I figured you guys didn't want to sit through that whole process. It literally took me a couple hours to get these two done. So I did get them welded out. I do have 2 cap pieces to put on the ends of these. So I'm going to go ahead and weld these cap plates on, and then they'll be ready to fit up. Obviously we can't get them fit up right away because our sleeve pieces have shrunk, so or warped or something, so we have to machine down the pin now, the shaft. So that'll be the next order of business. We'll get these welded out and ready to go, cleaned up, and then I've got to figure out the length of the shaft for these, and then I'll have to cut those and get them in the lathe and start taking, I'm assuming I'll probably have to take 5 or 10 thou off the pin to get these to go. So that's kind of the process. When we get to the point where we're doing something productive, we'll come back and show you guys where we're at. So you guys can see I welded these out open corner, and it just lays in there nice and pretty. I'm going to go ahead and take a buffing disc, flap disc, hit these sharp corners that I still have there, and that's going to look nice and neat. I'm going to get these cleaned up. Like I said, I'm going to start working on the shaft now and see if I can get figured out how much I've got to take off so we can get this put together. So we'll come back to you and give you an update when we get to that point. Alright guys, we got a 19-inch piece of our shaft cut here. We've got our steady rest in place, and I've checked it with my dial indicator, and we got about 1,000th run out right now. That's pretty decent, I'd say. So if we're within 1,000th of an inch for what we're doing for a piece of farm equipment, we're going to be okay. So I always like to put a little bit of oil on the shaft there where the brass guides are on the steady rest. It just quiets things down. Okay, looks like it's running good. Let's try a pass and see how it goes here. We're just going to square off the face. So we'll go ahead and get this squared up, and then we're going to drill that in the center, and then we'll run a live center, and we'll machine as far as we can, and then we'll touch up the end. Like I said, we're probably going to have to take, I'm guessing, 5 or 10 thou off of this to get it to slide in there the way we want it to and have room for grease. So we'll get this all faced off, and then we'll go ahead and drill this so that we can run a live center. Oh, has it been a ride? So let me catch you guys up to where we're at. There has been a whole slew of things that have gone wrong. You guys know me, I'm an open book, and even though there's all kinds of armchair quarterbacks out there that want to tell you, well, this is why it happened, this is why that happened, you shouldn't have done this. Yeah, typically you already know that once you get the problem resolved. And so it just makes it that much more enjoyable when someone jumps in and tells you why it happened. But anyway, probably the biggest thing that went wrong. We've had all sorts of complications with the alignment. The tolerances weren't what I thought they were. After I welded them out, I couldn't get them to slide through, so I ended up having to machine down each of the pins or the shafts that go through the middle. So I took those down another 5 thou, and they both slid in and out great. I checked them. Nothing was hot. I had cleaned out the bore before I put them in the hole. I was sliding them in and out, twisting them. Everything felt good. And I just kind of left them in there. I went into lunch, come back out, and I go to pull this one out, comes right out. The one on that side, I go to pull it out, it won't come. I mean, locked up tighter than a bull's. It was locked up tight. I didn't want to screw with it too much because I didn't want it to gall. Obviously, I don't have grease in these yet because I didn't want to put grease in them because I knew that I may have to machine the pin again or whatever. So I wanted to check the dry fit first. I'm assuming that there was a little teeny weld berry somewhere in there that I didn't get when I cleaned it out, and it caused it to gall. It locked that sucker up tight. I took a picture of the shaft, so I'll try to put that in here so you guys can see it. I don't know that I got a picture of the bore of the DOM, but I am going to show you guys what it did to it. I didn't cut it out. I didn't machine it out. I didn't cut the whole thing apart and weld a new one. The way that I resolved it, and this is one of the reasons that I'm sharing this with you guys, the way that I resolved it is it left a perfect groove after it galled up. It left a perfect groove along the bottom of the bore. And I machined some smaller grease grooves in the bushings anyway, but I didn't do any horizontal ones. And I thought, you know what? I'll bet you if I can grind that straight, right down where it left that groove, it'll just be a horizontal grease groove. And that is a thing. You can look it up. I ended up getting it fairly straight, cleaned it up. I cleaned it up with a flap disc. I've checked the fit on it several times. Everything's good now. The grease groove does not look the most professional, but luckily it's not where anyone's going to see it, or we're not going to be entering any grease groove contests today. So let me just show you guys what it looks like. And this is just my way of trying to make lemonade out of lemons. Okay, so there's the groove, and it goes all the way down. I realize it's not a perfect machined groove, but it is good and straight, believe it or not. I mean, for what it is. Everything else looks good. I just wanted to share that because I don't know that I've ever had a project go perfect. This one has definitely had a lot of complications. I've had a lot of issues trying to keep everything in alignment, tolerances, warpage, the whole bit. But the reason I'm sharing this is you have two options. You either cut it apart and start over, or can we modify it to make it work in a beneficial way? And I feel like grinding that out to be a grease groove, I don't think that's a bad thing. So, was it the original plan? Absolutely not. Did it suck trying to get that out? It took me and Coy 3.5, 4 hours to get that sucker out of there. We had to use a porta power, and we were pressing against this side of the frame. It would actually flex the frame. And I mean, this is a stout frame, but it was actually starting to flex the frame when you would put the porta power on. We were running a porta power at 10,000 PSI, and it got to the point there at the last 3 inches, we'd put a full 10,000 PSI on it, and it wouldn't move unless we tap it with a dead blow hammer. And that's how we finally got it to come out. I'm just grateful it came out. I'm grateful I didn't have to cut it apart. I'm grateful that this is going to work still. Let's put it together. So We've got it flipped over now. You can see that it's right side up. So I've got the pins finished. They're all machined to spec. The rings welded on the outside, so we can slide the pins in and start putting our axles on. So we're going to get these babies greased up good so that we don't have that same issue. Let's start putting this together. Okay, first thing we're going to do, make sure this is nice and clean, which it is. I've cleaned it several times since the incident. I'm going to get some grease in there. And I'll smear that around. And just for good measure, I'm going to smear grease on the shaft. If I didn't mention, this shaft is 4140 steel, which is pretty dang hard. Oh. Ooh, slides like butter. Next order of business, I changed my mind. I am going to put some grease on this because the next thing to go on is the axles. So we're going to smear this around good. One of the things I did want to mention is how much I love the variable speed on this hoist. I've been really impressed with this. I love the cordless remote. I love the variable speed, and it has not given me one lick of issue in the time that I've had it. There she goes. Whoa! Don't come off. Okay. Checking for clearance. Everything looks good there. All right, guys, we're on to the next pass. So I've got a bracket burned. It's actually going to sit like this. There's going to be a piece of DOM welds on here. It'll make more sense once we get over there, but the DOM will weld here, and then it actually slides onto the end of the shaft, and it supports the end of the shaft. We're going to clean these up. I am going to punch a hole in this. I could have burned a hole, but then I'd have had to clean it out with an end grinder. I figured punching it would be just as quick. So I'm going to punch a hole here, center the shaft, and then we'll do a plug weld there. It'll also tie everything in and keep the pin from walking in towards the hopper. So let's clean these up. We'll go over there, show you guys how that's going to look. Okay, so I've got a 3x3 7-inch piece, square tube. That's going to go in line with this support here. We're going to tack that in place after we tack it to this plate. But I'm just showing you guys. So we'll tack that here, and we'll tack our DOM to this plate. We'll pull it off. We'll weld it out. We'll put this back on, and we'll get this tacked on. And then we'll do a plug weld on the end of the shaft here in this hole. And then after we do the plug weld, we'll weld this to the frame, and we should have support here on the end of the shaft. So that's the plan. Oh yeah, that's... All right, so we got this all tacked up. So this is the keeper. There's where our plug weld goes on the end of the shaft. This is the keeper that supports the shaft on the end. So we're going to weld this out. Obviously, I got to weld the DOM, and then I got to weld the square tube up. I'm just going to do it here since the welder's set up here, and I hate bouncing back and forth. She's welded out. I'm gonna let that cool for a minute. I am gonna clean all the spatter up off of that. So I'll get this all cleaned up and then give you guys a look. Something else I did that I may not have mentioned before is I drilled and tapped and put 2 more grease zerks in this piece here, because this is the piece that is going to rock, and it's the piece that needs to be able to float and that we don't want to seize up. So I put 2 more grease zerks in that. Alright guys, welcome back. Let's give you guys an update on what's been going on here. So I didn't get a whole lot of video of assembling the hubs. We ran into some complications. For some reason they shipped the hubs with the inner and outer race in place. They were pressed in, but then it didn't come with any of the bearings or seals or anything. I ended up getting a hold of my buddy. He ended up calling and ordering the parts. We had to wait a few days, had them shipped right to the house, and so I was able to get them all assembled and put on. We'll just go ahead and give you guys a look here at what was involved in that. If you've ever worked on a trailer hub, then you pretty much know what's involved, but I can just walk you guys through what the assembly process was like for these. Okay, so you can see there's your main grease seal right there. So that had to be pressed into this flush, and then hopefully you can see there's a lip right there that seals on this surface of the axle. So you had to put that in, then you had to pack the bearings on the inner side, slide that on, pack the bearings on the outer bearings, slide that on, slide on a washer, slide on your castle nut, run a cotter pin through the axle, bend that over, fill it full of grease to the point where it was protruding out to where it would be close to filling that up, and then tap the cap on. You want to make sure when you put the bearings on and tighten that castle nut down, I was always taught you go to where it's just finger tight and then back off 1 notch and then check it. You want to make sure there's not too much slop, but you also want to make sure that it's not so tight that you can't freely spin the hubs. So we've got those all installed. We're getting ready to put the wheels on. One of the other things we forgot about was lug nuts, so I had to order the lug nuts. I'm going to go pick those up right now. So when I get back from that, we'll go ahead and put the wheels on that. And then I still have these gussets I got to weld in place right here. So these gussets will go right here, top and bottom. I got to weld those on, and then I got to weld the tongue plate on so that we can get the hitch installed. That way I'll be able to move this around. So I did order the plate for the hopper, and I'm also going to try and go pick that up today. I got to go into Salt Lake. We are making headway on the trailer, feeling good about it. So I did get some more drawings on the hopper and the bend angles and all that stuff, so that should be fairly simple. And then we also need dimensions for the chute. There's kind of 2 chutes in the bottom. There's the one that's hydraulically driven that lifts up and down so that you can grade the trench as you go over it. And then there's one that kind of hangs inside of the hopper to catch the material as it comes down. It'll make more sense once we get to that point, but anyway, that's where we're at on the wheel ditch filler trailer. So when we get ready to put the wheels back on, we'll come back to you guys. All right, we are getting ready to put some tires on this bad boy. These bad boys are not for to keep the axle down. It keeps lifting up on me and spinning. There. Whew. Those wheels are not for the faint of heart. So we're going to go ahead and get all the wheels on this. And then the plan is to lift it up, get the sawhorses out from under it, set it down on the tires. I'm going to level it so that I know where to weld the tongue piece on the front, to know if I need to center it or weld it on a little high so that it's got more upper adjustment or lower adjustment. So we'll go ahead and get these tires on, put all the lugs on. When we get ready to drop this and level it, we'll come back to you. Tell you what, you could go through the Walmart parking lot with this sucker and have no problems at all. Figured I might as well throw this out there in case there's someone watching that's never put on a tire or taken one off. When you put a tire on, you always want to make sure you finger tighten the lugs first, or at least get the threads started so you don't cross thread them. And then when you go to tighten them, you want to tighten them in a star pattern. And like I said, I always like to go through the star pattern, just snug them up lightly, and then I go through it again and tighten it, and then I go through it again and go in a circle. And just make sure that they're all tight. Make sure I didn't miss one. I'm sure most of the people that watch the channel know that, but just in case there's somebody that's never done it before. Go through again, tighten. All right, here we go. Here's the plan. I'm gonna lift this up. That's all we need right there. Holy moly. Oh, oh goodness. Oh, she is on the ground. Look at that. Boy, they look perfectly in line. I don't see either one of them ski wampus. They look good. Sweet. Now we can get the horses out of here, and like I said, I'm going to put a level on this, and then I want to measure and see how it compares to a standard trailer. I've got a couple of them out here I can measure, and I just want to see height-wise where we want to be. All right, so that's what we're going to do. We'll get the horses out of here, throw a level on this, and then when we get ready to weld our bracket on, we'll come back to you and give you an update. All right, so here's what we got. I've leveled the trailer, I've measured my pickup and a couple of these other trailers. It's kind of a range. Right now the top of my ball is about 17 inches, which there's adjustment here. We can move it up if we need to. This is our bracket here. You can see I've marked center, top and bottom. So I've marked center of this, and then I've also marked center of the tongue on the trailer. So I can match up these two marks, tack it, and I know that's exactly where it needs to go. So that's what we're gonna do now. Okay, so I've done the same thing on the bottom. Now I'm going to get some tacks on the sides. Trying to go even. So now I'm going to weld the top and bottom first. That should hopefully keep it from twisting on me. Okay, here's your close-up. Got our weave. We did 2 passes on the sides. 1 pass top and bottom. 1 good heavy pass. It's going to take a lot to pull that off. We are ready to bolt up our coupler and we can move it out of here. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and bolt that up. Then we can grab it with the forklift and move it out of here. It's not that I haven't enjoyed working on it. I have. When it's something I can move in and out of the shop with the forklift, it's just so much easier. Plus, if I have something else that I've got to hurry and get done for someone, then it's not in the way. So it's a lot easier to work on now that it's mobile. And I picked up the plate today for the hopper, so we're going to start working on that. Got a little bit of work we're going to have to sub out there. I'm going to have to sub out some of the press brake work on that because they're 10-foot sheets. We do have to start building the chute as well. Let's go ahead and get that bolted up and we'll roll it out of here. All right, so we've got our little coupling here. Slides in here. We picked up a couple bolts. Got some anti-sleaze here. I'd like to hand some of that out in Washington. Tell you what, I am pretty excited. I don't think I've been this excited since I heard the view might get canceled. Well, we'll go ahead and get the forklift hooked up to this and roll it out of here so I can sweep up, get things cleaned up, and we'll see how she rolls around. Oh yeah. and that will hold this. It will support the shaft, and it will also... Okay guys, so let's give an